that you achieve. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for organizing this. And I would like to welcome you all to this workshop. It's March the 10th of 2022, and we're going to present what is the progress so far to all Cluster 2 pilots. This is the agenda here. So we will start actually by introducing a case study. It's one of the assets that has been uploaded in the marketplace, and we will see how it works. And then the format will be that each pilot will present their project. We will have a 5-minute session after each one of the presentations, so we can all give feedback to how the project looks, and if we have anything else that we can comment on. So it's going to be a Q&A plus the feedback form. Each pilot will have about 20 minutes to present, so feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, and the corresponding people can actually reply and answer anything that is needed. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Petros Voivodas from Crowd Policy. He's been working on a tool called Crossover, and he's going to show us how it works, what it is used for, and how you can actually access it in the marketplace. So Petros, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much, Theo. Good morning, everyone. I would also like to welcome you to this meeting. I'm a software engineer at Crowd Policy for the past 1.5 years. I'm also the technical project manager for Crossover, our latest offering in our FintelioX group of products. And for the next 10 minutes or so, I would like to share with you what we've been working on. So Crossover is a all-in-one PSD2 engine. What it does is it accelerates the development of new apps and services that rely on the PSD2 directive. These may be apps that help people understand and decode the financial data, and also help them make and transfer money to other accounts in an integrated and more user-friendly way. The way it does this is it gives developers a single API that they need to use in order to connect with all of Crossover supported banks. This is quite important because to anyone who has used PSD2 APIs from banks, they might know that there are a couple of things they need to do. First of all, they need to look at all the bank's documentation. There might be differences to each one. Also, they need to handle data. They need to store users' accounts. They need to make sure that they cache those accounts to make sure that their app is performant. And there's so much stuff that they need to do just to connect with banks before they get to developing the core business logic, which may be using AI for the user's data or something else that is really important and vital to their app and their business. Crossover gives a single API, and the first thing it does is this: it gives a single API for brands for developers to use. Besides that, Crossover does a couple of other things. Once a user connects their bank and their bank accounts, the developer without Crossover has to store those accounts and store the user session. Crossover does this internally, so developers don't need to manually store, delete, refresh, invalidate users' data. Crossover does this all automatically and informs the developer when changes need to be made by the user. It also stores payment data for, you can imagine, apps that show a transaction history. So this is the basic functionality. We're starting off with Greece's 4 major banks: Alpha Bank, Eurobank, NPG, National Bank of Greece, and Piraeus Bank, and we're building from there. So far, we've used Crossover in collaboration with Wallbridge, which is Western Union's representative in Greece. For any Greeks that may be in this meeting, you may know them as Paylink. And also, we've been working internally to build a demo of what you can build with Crossover. We've been working on this for the past couple of weeks, and we plan on releasing it publicly in the next 2 weeks. And we'll inform you, and we'll also put it in the marketplace, and we'll inform you so that you can try it out. So now I would like to share my screen and give you a little presentation of how it works. Just give me a sec. So now you're seeing my emails. That's great.
But now we can see your screen with Crossover demo. So don't worry, anybody who can have technical issues, go on.
Okay, so, this is the login page. Once you log into this demo, you get to the screen. Now, it has a couple of distinct parts. It's divided into 4 sections. So let's start from the upper left. The upper left is an overview of the user's accounts and their connected banks. They can see which banks they've connected. They can see a balance in each account. They can see their total balance across all accounts and cards. And they can also add a new bank. If they click on a connected bank, let's select Alpha Bank, they get to a different tab, which shows them the bank resources for this bank. This is that means that they see their accounts and their cards and the connected cards. They can see the balance in each account and a total balance for Alpha Bank. They can also disconnect this bank if they need to. They can also select a single account and view more details. They can view the account's details, its IBAN, its name, its BBAN, the account number, and a history of the transactions that are made using this account. And the same goes for the rest of the banks, and the same for the rest of the banks and the rest of the accounts and cards. Now, what's important to understand is that the developer only has to communicate with a single resource, which is Crossover, to do all of this, to connect all of the banks, to collect the user transactions, to collect the balances, the accounts and cards. And so they don't have to worry about poor documentation of banks, the implementation changing, and a few other details that may change. They only need to worry about using the Crossover API to both connect and disconnect banks and view the user's data. In the lower left corner, there's a table of all transactions made with the connected accounts and cards. They can see an overview. And okay, and in the upper right corner, there are the user can connect contacts so they can transact easily with them. This is another functionality of Crossover. Crossover has its own user management system, which means that it allows users to easily send money to other Crossover users. Internally, this is done by using PSD2, but it offers a better experience to end users. And in the lower bottom corner, in the bottom right corner, there are the quick transaction section. There is the quick transaction section, which users can in which users can create shortcuts to common transactions. You can imagine rent or a car deposit, anything that it's any transaction that's made frequently. They can add it as a shortcut, and they can just click on it and follow the steps to get to the bank's website and authorize the transaction. This is another of Crossover's core functionalities. That is, it allows you to store payments as shortcuts, and it stores them internally, so that the developer doesn't need to worry about it. And again, it gives a greater experience to the end user. Other functionalities that Crossover support out of the box is hiding and showing accounts and cards, and much more that you will see when this demo is published. So that's the basic idea of the demo. Again, it will be publicly available in the next couple of weeks, and we'll also publish the link and all the necessary information in the marketplace. So thank you for listening, and
thank you, Petros, for this. As you mentioned, this is actually uploaded. I think it's being reviewed to be visible in the marketplace. So the idea is that anyone can just go and try it out, connect directly through APIs, and then use it with any bank, pretty much. Hopefully, I guess there are some differences, but this is the plan, that you can connect anything to one place, and you have this consolidated view of your bank accounts. Thank you, Petros. That's actually a very good introduction. We're talking about personal finance and all the tools that can help us just improve the way that we do things. So I'm gonna move to the next presentation for pilot 3. Which one is gonna present, guys, from your side?
Thanks, Theo. I think we're going to do we'll all have a part to play. So I might do the piece on business. Martin, I think, is going to do technology, and Phil will do he's done some work on the ethics that I think Phil is going to present on. Martin, Phil, any particular order you want to run in, or will I kick off?
Yeah, I think that's a good order, actually. Richard, you kick off, and Martin in the middle, and then I'll finish off. Okay, because the ethics part I can whiz through quick. Right. We've only got 20 minutes.
Okay, let me just see. Petros made the sharing look easy, so let's see if I can mess it up. Control.
So while you're looking for that, I will be sharing the format for the feedback after you are all done. Yeah, this is actually, our feedback on what you're going to present at this point. Thank you, Richard. The floor is yours.
Very good. And you can see that, can you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Very pleased to be able to present an outline of Pilot 3. So, as we just said, my particular focus will be just giving an overview, I suppose, of the business drivers that we're developing the project, and then Martin will run through the technology, and then Phil will finish up on the ethics piece. So the title of our project is Intelligent Analysis, Benefits and Opportunities for KYC Services and to Disrupt Trafficking. We have 4 partners in our pilot: the National University of Galway, the Bank of Ireland, Traffic Analysis Hub, and then ourselves, the Banking and Payments Federation, or myself, Banking and Payments Federation. The problem we're solving is identifying complex relationships that exist between different entities. And to do this, we're using Infinitec AI and machine learning techniques, and Infinitec real-time analytics. And we create graph databases of the relationships that exist between these entities. And that initiative then, or if you like, the data analysis initiative can then be applied to a number of different areas. So one would be enhancing customer profiles. And these are the profiles of the type that the banks use as part of their KYC or Know Your Customer or KYB, Know Your Business verifications. And it can also be used then as part of just, if you like, your standard identity verification, and also can be used to enhance credit scoring profiles. Other areas it can be used are, so that first example is very much a bank focused, if you like. Then there's the ability for customers to be able to use the service themselves in peer-to-peer situations. So that could be peer-to-peer, P2P payments. It could be in P2B credit applications where neither party knows anything about the others, but they now have a mechanism to be able to share information about themselves. Or it could be used by a customer to give access to agreed sort of profile information. So it's very much the customer decides what they share. So a sort of an example of that might be a renter, for example, could share information about their rental history to a new landlord. So to give the new landlord comfort that they have been a solid tenant in the past. Or a small business might share some trading history with a new supplier, and then that might allow them to get a larger credit line in that case where neither knows the other. But the area that we're going to propose to prove the pilot is in the generation and sharing of typologies used to detect human trafficking. And hence that's the reason one of our cornerstone partners are the Traffic Analysis Hub. With regards to innovation, we've engaged with a number of interested stakeholders in the wider financial services and law enforcement communities. They've all reviewed our application of the pilot and how it's applied in the case of people trafficking. And all of the feedback indicates they believe the service is innovative and there's no other service available that facilitates sharing of typology in the manner that we've taken. Historically, most financial institutions have a very siloed and a very bespoke approach to KYC and identity, and as to how they generate scoring against data. And they tend to utilize the data that they have gathered themselves, either through the customer's transaction histories, or perhaps data that the customer has supplied to them as part of KYC applications. Pilot 3, on the other hand, uses and has an ability to take in and absorb an awful lot of non-traditional data. And in the case of human trafficking, we're taking in vast amounts of news media, and then that we use that to help enhance typologies that sit across, if you like, transaction data. I won't dwell on the technical innovation piece because Martin is going to cover that. Just a quick talk about the competitive landscape. So at present, there's no real service that we can do a direct comparison to. There's no cloud-based services that focus on financial flows arising from human trafficking. There are some good companies out there, Thomson Reuters Foundation, they do gather indicators, if you like, of trafficking behaviors, but they don't then combine these into typologies that can then be further shared, in this case between banks, and enhanced as they're shared, and then enhanced and redistributed back into the community. Nexus Lexis offer very, very good risk solutions, but they don't actually call out red flags, and they also don't take the typology enhancement approach. And then you have other very good organizations like the Financial Task Force and the Certified Financial Crime Specialists. They drive a community of like-minded and interested people and drive innovation out of that, and training and upskilling. But again, they don't sort of deliver this all in one package. Looking at the stakeholder engagement that we've had, we've met with Deloitte Ireland, Deloitte Europe, Interpol and Western Union, and was over 2 meetings, one in December, one in February. And actually the third one, Joint Intelligence Group, we actually have just recently had that meeting as well. So we actually have reached out across quite a number of banks. Bank of Ireland obviously are in our pilot, and then Allied Irish Bank, Permanent, TSB, KBC, Ulster, and then also some of the more international players like Western Union, and also in that particular instance with the Joint Intelligence Group, it was local law enforcement in Ireland. And that combined then with the Interpol, Western Union and Deloitte gave us a much more of a European or global view. All of them felt it was a very innovative approach that we had taken. All of them flagged concerns, anything to do with data sharing. You have to be absolutely on the right side of GDPR. And also they pointed out that will become more complex the more participants you get in this community. But on the flip side is this will only really work well if we get a large number of participants in the community. So I think that is the sort of tension we're going to have to keep an eye on as we deliver on the pilot. Later in this year, date to be confirmed, we plan to present to the International Joint Intelligence Group. And at that group, we will be meeting a lot more of the big heavyweight multinational banks, such as Bank of America, Barclays, HSBC, Citi, and again, local law enforcement and that, and possibly back around to Interpol again. I won't dwell on this. Martin, I think, is going to touch on marketplace assets. In the deck that we'll provide to Theo, you'll be able to see that basically that's the pilot on a page, so all of the information is there. And that is it from my side. Theo, do you want to take questions on that, or will we push on and take questions at the end?
I think that's the best. Let's wait until the end so we have a complete view.
Okay, great. I'll stop sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Sure, I'm going to continue now with the technical part. This is just a complementary on how we're elaborating what Richard has just correctly presented. In this pilot 3, the kind of the abstract view of the technology is we have in one side, left-hand side, some data providers, starting from kind of a high-level social media data. We call it negative news, advertisements, adults, jobs, feeds in general. And we also have some sort of a data sets or information that resides in some electronic records. What we are also adding in here is these models from Infinitec, because these are related to financial transactions, financial operations, all about these banking operations. And we are mixing or relying on this mixture of data models. So we have FIBO, Fiji, LKIF, and Infinitec Core. And I have highlighted in here Privé or Privé, Privy, and Tahoe, which is basically the pilot-oriented ontologies. Traffic analysis hub ontology, which is just an idea of a subset of concepts and idea and terms from the vocabularies that we can analyze. And as explained by Richard, so basically what we will use is the correlation and the relationships between all these terms to identify profiles or to do some sort of services over this data. So we call KYC KYB because it still is profiling objects or profiling people as a result of these APIs that consumes these resources. So you can see on the right-hand side, we have KYC services for those data types that are already kind of in Traffic Analysis Hub. This is kind of the onboarding technology. But then we are expanding to include these incidents by date, by location from these money laundering activities, which is the interest of BOI, or basically the activity of BOI group. But we also want to align all these three with the illegal activities like human trafficking. And nevertheless, they might sound or look similar, is because the KYC process service has been built. We need to contextualize this one in the evolution of the reference architecture in Infinitec until the end of last year. So we were just working in the data layer, in the data processing and architecture for this accessing managing and processing and do some simple analytics to demonstrate the proof of concept that it's possible to collect from multiple sources, align with data models, and then select via queries, via some query methods to access this information. And now with the join or with the expansion towards human trafficking and traffic analysis hub and IBM and BPFI, so we are now expanding to this more complex analysis, AI-based solutions, and of course some visualizations that can complete this reference architecture that we have. In more details, without no intention to explain all of them, but we have these 4 quadrants, starting on the quadrant 1, which is the priority, and the innovation, which is the pilot 3. So we will have these rich models for red flag indicators, and then we will have our new typology. We call it HT typology library generator, which basically resides or rely on this pilot 3 data store. This data store, in a difference from any other type of store, combines the different data types and typologies that might be coming from different domains by following the data model, the common data model. And this is the advantage of what we call interoperability and data exchange as a principle of this pilot. Of course, we need to do efforts in integrating in one side, in the second quadrant, the traffic analysis hub, which is already an onboarding prototype technology that has these data sources. By repeating, is that news from social media, basically advertisements, but these are following non-structured data sets or non-structured data, and that's why this data crawler get this data from web services or like APIs from Twitter or Facebook, and then at the end they process this one by collections of data in a what we call traffic analysis hub warehouse. Enabling APIs facilitates this interaction with data stores in the pilot 3, and the bottom part, the quadrant 3, it shows exactly how these data models are processed from the perspective of query builder. This is a semantic technology that we have demonstrated. There's already a video as well in this demonstration. I think we didn't consider to present it today because even though was requested a video, but this does not include just the analytical part or the complex analysis and the visualization, but hopefully in the next month or we will have more enhanced version. But for sure, we will have more kind of a complete version of this one by the review in May. That's the target plan. And last but not least, in the quadrant 4, so we also have this Bank of Ireland ingested information, also relies in typologies, but these typologies are banking, different from the typologies in the traffic analysis hub. And then you see now the complexity of having these different data sources, data kind of a repositories, database, and the advance of API integration. And because all of them now will follow the data model, common data models that we have and the technology that we have in the semantic engine, that will provide an enhanced version of these APIs. The intention is that the analytics and AI-based solutions will consume these APIs in consulting the data model, the Infinitec core and Infinitec data models. And in this way, all the transparency and all the functionalities will be accessible and provided. Last but not least, in a big picture, you can see here how the details of each of this, actually, sorry, I forgot to mention, so the green part in this diagram are the ones that are developed as part of this onboarding technologies or in terms of progress in the first year. And the ones in grayish is more about the outcome of the project, pilot 3. And then the one in purple are these common data sharing and interoperability aspects. And this is mapped in this other full kind of a flesh. And nevertheless, in this also we include distributed consent because we consider that this is a compliance with this GDPR request. We are still analyzing if the provided solution in the work package 4 can satisfy these needs, and hopefully we can have a test or kind of an opportunity to test this technology in this pilot. Otherwise, we just go with the Sesame and the traffic analysis hub services and the implementation that we just presented in terms of integrating analytic insights, the intelligent flows in terms of banking, and also the analytical insights for the enterprise in terms of human trafficking. I think Phil will explain the implications on these analytical insights, because at the end we're exploring information that is sensitive, financial or personal, and we are also considering that in this kind of components that are processing. So by means of encryption or by means of this anonymization. And just to conclude, so at the moment we're using synthetic data sets. That's the participation with Bank of Ireland at the moment to provide the structures and the facsimile information models, and we will rely on these synthetic data sets. And then at some point when all the legal requirements are processed, and we will see how process the real data sets. Or Bank of Ireland will just execute everything in the ecosystem, in the infrastructure, and then will facilitate towards the feedback and the results by not breaking any ethical or any GDPR situations. I'm here to answer questions, and that's the end of my 3 slides to explain the architecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Very well explained.
Can you see that as the slideshow?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to go through the ethical review that we've done on Pilot 3. I'm the CFO for Traffic Analysis Hub, which is an NGO, which is in a working prototype. It's got the largest data points of human trafficking in the world, over 1 million data points, which is mainly got from open source and open information, but also from contributions from over 100 human trafficking NGOs. Also contribute to the data after it's been anonymized onto our hub. So yeah, the Pilot 3 is going to use AI to search big data and to produce the red flag typologies to emphasize the potential KYC risks with regard to human trafficking. It uses open source libraries and the semantic engine that's been developed by NUIG, which is Martin's just gone through. It enables feedback to a human in the loop system. So it's not 100% fully automatic that you feed in the client's name and it tells you whether he fails KYC. It's a tool to enable the compliance departments within financial institutions to make a decision on KYC. So there's a lot of human agency and oversight, but this is the P3 is designed to take away a large amount of time of people searching big data and coming up with different interpretations in different banks. It will produce a typology that can be used across all FIs. Negative results are going to be, because of autonomy, are going to be very low unless, of course, the data in is poor. But the semantic engine will mainly take that out. Also, we cannot rule against human error within because right at the very end it's a human in the loop product, and it's going to be down to human judgment. So Pilot 3 and the Traffic Analysis Hub are cloud-based. The cloud server provider is IBM, and IBM is fully certified as meeting the relevant ISOs. Pilot 3 is envisaged to only be used within the financial institution's own secured environment, further resilience to attack. Any technical faults, defects will broadly put up a KYC that the typology whereby it will need further investigation rather than be used by a financial institution as the one and only source of their KYC. So we have red flag typologies associated with the KYC check, and so everything will be done by human in the loop. Low level of accuracy will be minimized at that point in time. So here, which is one, as Richard said, is one of our main concerns, which is privacy and data governance. So everything will be within a ring-fenced financial institution environment. It will be with regard to the legitimate interests of an FI. Privacy is a core requirement in the design of the system. Traffic Analysis Hub, as for its part, has we've got one of the world's largest firms of data privacy lawyers who work with us constantly to produce and continue to update our data privacy, our impact assessment, and the legal necessity for the Traffic Analysis Hub. And I'm sure that every financial institution that's going to be using this will have a similar legal background. So we regularly check and log the quality of our data. We do that on a monthly basis, and we have a risk committee that analyzes the risks of any data breaches, which has been none so far. And obviously financial institutions, their own internal audit and governance systems will do the same. So transparency, P3 is going to be a back-end system, so it's not going to be being used by the public. Our initial training will be given to all users, and that will be updated on at least an annual basis, and more if things change. So at the moment, we've developed it in a part of the Bank of Ireland customer base, which has been anonymized and pseudonymized. So we're working out how it works without going into specific clients' personal data. It will have, at the moment, some sort of racial bias, because of course it's based on Bank of Ireland's customer base, which is primarily weighted towards white Western European customers. But the whole point is that as the typologies roll out and as they develop, it will automatically adjust to the varying demographics. So we've had stakeholder workshops, as Richard went through, and in fact, the Traffic Analysis Hub has a monthly analysts call with its users, which go across financial institutions and the 100 NGOs. And so somewhere between 50 and 65 analysts every month give their feedback on the Traffic Analysis Hub method of working and how it's doing. And this will be within once P3 is launched, will include the Infinitec. So we do not take into account any societal demographics when we're producing our red flags. The red flag typologies are based purely on human trafficking and financial institution for information. So there's no immediate negative impacts on the society, other than where we all hope, on the human trafficker society. The whole point of Traffic Analysis Hub and the Infinitec is, in the end, is to disrupt the economic growth of human trafficking. P3 and Traffic Analysis Hub have a large oversight mechanism. Obviously, within the financial institutions, their own audit and compliance department will do that. Traffic Analysis Hub has a very specialized set of director trustees who meet on a weekly basis to make sure that everything is accountable and the mechanisms are there to make sure that it's done properly. And that's the end of the ethical review. And now I'll hand back to Richard for some questions.
Thank you, Phil. I can still see your screen. It's very interesting. May I ask? So when it comes to this loop, how does it exactly work? Because you mentioned a human is actually in the loop of the feedback. So does it go through your algorithms and then it always goes back to someone?
Yes. So my understanding is that, and Martin can correct me, is that P3 will produce typologies, and which is descriptions of various things that are happening within the human trafficking sphere, and how traffickers are using financial institutions. For instance, multiple withdrawals of the same amount of cash from a specific ATM, and then when you're doing KYC, it will be a subjective decision in the end made by one of the compliance team within the financial institution. Richard, you may well want to add to that.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Phil. A very simple example would be you might have multiple bank accounts opened, all from the same address, with different people with legitimate IDs. That in itself isn't that unusual, because you can get, in fact, we saw off the Donegal coast here in Ireland, something that caused concern. In fact, it didn't turn out to be a problem, but we saw a large number of people opening accounts from one address, all with different identities. They were actually involved in the fishing industry. And so that in itself isn't unusual. They spend a lot of time out on trawlers, and they really just come back once a week or so to back to a house to rest. But then when you see, as Phil said, combine that with data from the banks that show these accounts all withdrawing cash, all within, let's say, half an hour from one ATM. Now that then becomes suspicious. And combining both of those two different types of data would indicate that there is somebody controlling the bank cards of all of these people. And that, in that case, could point towards a case of human trafficking. I don't know if that answers your question, Theo.
It does. And thank you. That's something, it's an interesting case and a good example. It's pretty clear. And yeah, I just want to mention that you're working on a very, very important topic, and I really hope that it works and everything. We make this world a better place in the end, because we can help by doing that. Thank you guys for sharing all the progress so far. I don't know if there are any more questions from anyone else. If not, I'm gonna share with you. So I'm gonna send you now a link. Please, it's about like 2 or 3 minutes. Please take these 2-3 minutes to give your feedback to P3, and we will come back to continue with the next one. This is important, guys, because you are all working on, let's say, similar projects, and your feedback is very, very appreciated for that. So please just give your honest feedback, and we will talk about the results on a later stage. So I've sent you the link there. Please take 2 minutes, and we'll come back to continue. Can you all see it?
Yeah, I'm just filling in here what a marvelous pilot 3 is. Thanks, Theo.
Thank you. So let's meet again in 2 minutes. Okay, we already have a few of the answers there. Thank you for taking the time. We will send you all the forms, of course, after the call, so you can share this with any other external stakeholders that you have. And we can actually go ahead for the next presentation. It's pilot 4. So Anna, who is gonna present from your side?
Yes, hello. I will gonna
Hi.
present from my side. So, yep, let me check.
Great.
Please let me know if you see the screen.
Yes, it's loading, and it's yeah. Now it's fine. Thank you, Anna.
Okay, perfect. So, welcome forward to the pilot 4 presentation, personalized portfolio management, and how private banking could be for everyone. Here I will just go through the quick introduction of the pilot. So, as many of you know, we in Pilot 4 focus mainly on the development of the individual private banking-like portfolio advisory journey, which is based on the AI genetic optimization algorithm. Our goal here is to mainly automatically construct and optimize portfolio by modelizing the investment advisory and also decision-making process using certain level of AI-based procedures. The result in this case is a tailored portfolio for each individual investor, which leads me to the business innovation slide. As you see, some of the innovations are automatic risk scoring, also personalization via various preference and selection, and AI Go flexibility in portfolio construction. Generally, the main business innovation of the pilot is considered to be the possibility of creating even smaller customer portfolios in a much more personalized manner, as we see that right now many institutions are not able to do so, or is it, for example, way too expensive to provide such personalized portfolio for smaller portfolios and on individual levels. These business innovations would be generally continuously increased by adding additional personal preferences, and one of them would be possible due to cooperation with our project partner, ReportBrain, that developed their sentiment indicators. And in the end, these new additions will also open up new possibilities for personalization of Pilot 4. Now I would like to hand over to our partner ReportBrain, who will present you updates on their API version 5 and their development status. Victoria, do you hear us?
I think she's not a panelist. Let me change her. That's why she cannot really present. Sorry for that. Victoria, we will make you panelist soon. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I just I saw she was there. Maybe there is a connection issue. In this case, while we're waiting for Victoria to join, I could jump into our other update slides, and then we can go back to ReportBrain.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so in terms of further updates, the market analysis, the first point is target market. Basically, our targets are all financial services intermediaries who provide acquiring advisory and wealth management services. So this means banks, insurers, securities, brokerage firms, etc. In regard to market trends, here we would like to point out that generally recently conducted studies in the financial and advisory space highly recognize personalized and digital customer experience to be even more important to address the client's needs. And exactly these needs for digitization, also personalization, and taking more risk appetite is the core focus of Pilot 4 within Infinitec. Coming to the competing products and services, as the as much more attention is being granted nowadays to the personalization. Of course, a number of competitors enter the market. Some examples are Comerch, which is a company based in Poland, also InvestSuite, based in Belgium, Quantifeed, and a number of others. The first two I will address in this slide. For competitive landscape analysis, we took two competitors, mainly Comerch and InvestSuite. And based on a publicly available information, we made a comparison and came to a conclusion that Pilot 4 has a bigger number of advantages, such as risk profiling, also sentiment data and analysis being possible by the cooperation with ReportBrain. Also some features as benchmarking, core satellite strategy, portfolio analysis, and mainly personalized portfolio construction, as many competitors offer only model portfolios, which are not individually constructed. In the case of model portfolios, for example, the idea that a person is assigned to a certain risk group and then is being assigned to a predefined portfolio with certain assets, which excludes the personalization which Pilot 4 targets. Coming to the stakeholder engagement, here we conducted several presentations and also project meetings with new and existing clients who are interested in digital advisory journeys and portfolio optimization tools. And we are also in talks with some other potential customers. And finally, ASICS impact assessment. Here, I would like to guide us through the ASICS assessment focused on AI, as Pilot 4 includes certain level of AI-related procedures. First of all, human agency and autonomy. Here, Pilot 4 can be described to have a hybrid approach, as first of all, AI is used to automate the selection of the assets within portfolio. However, the objective of the portfolio, also different inputs, weights of the portfolio are always controlled by the user, by the end user. Coming to the human oversight, Pilot 4 can be described as a human in command system, as all the final portfolio decisions are made by the user. For example, if the portfolio needs to be edited, if it's accepted, if it is accepted, etc. Reliability. Here, generally, we conducted a big number of testing series, which ensured a high level of reliability. Also, as you see, other tests results show that by changing the selected inputs of more than 8,000 cases, we saw that fitness score improvement reached 30%, which is also a good source of information. Coming to privacy and risk management, but we in Pilot 4 work with licensed and trusted market data providers such as Morningstar, and because this is a publicly licensed and available information, this also assures a certain level of traceability and transparency, which in the end reduces the level of potential risks in relation to accuracy of the provided results. And now I would like to show you the demo video showing updates since our last workshop held in November. So I hope it works for you.
Welcome to Privé Technology, presenting pilot number 4, personalized portfolio management, how private banking could be for everyone. Update March 2022. Last time, we presented the status of our development. This contained editing the user's risk profile, which contained roughly 10 different questions, editing the user's investment preferences, included sustainability, ETFs, regions, and investment themes. And we presented the personalized portfolio proposal generated by Privé's portfolio optimization algorithm based on the user's risk score and all investment preferences. We added the option to define a core satellite strategy, a special method of portfolio construction, part of the investment preferences section. New is also the look-through analysis, which allows a professional and private investor to understand portfolio exposure from multiple perspectives. This includes asset allocation, showing the general investment focus of the proposed portfolio, followed by the sector analysis, showing how diversified the proposal is by different industries. The geographic exposure illustrates the regional presence, and the currency exposure shows the currency origin of the investments in this portfolio. So what did we add this year so far? We added now backtesting, which shows in a convincing manner how the proposed portfolio recovered after previous crises. We also added the goal attainment, which is an additional source of trust. It provides a transparent comparison how the proposed portfolio matches the investor's preferences. What are the next steps? The function of benchmarking, showing that the proposed portfolio is able to generate a sufficient performance. Last but not least, the final trust-building element is to illustrate how a new proposed portfolio compares to an existing investment. At Privé Technologies, we are right on track to build fully individualized portfolio proposals for everyone. Thank you.
So far, this would be all from previous slides. And yeah, if the partners from Report Brain are there, we could continue from this with their presentation. And from our side, we would just generally would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anna, for the presentation. Very interesting. We will have the questions afterwards, so we can have a view of all the activities. So Victoria, I think you are able now to talk. Hi.
Yes, hello everybody. So let me, okay, that will work for me. You will change my slides. I can do it as well. Okay. So I will talk about Report Brain News article sentiment. API, this should be version 5.0. This is a typo. So in general, the sentiment analysis has been very popular since the beginning of natural language processing. And sentiment analysis is basically to identify the view or emotion behind a situation or a piece of text or any content that we might have in our hands. So use cases for Infinitec or for in future probably financial institutions will be portfolio management and stock modeling enhancement by providing this extra factor of market sentiment, stock price prediction, but by analyzing the news and social media sentiment, and credit rating by multiplexing of open source big data. Next slide, please. So the sentiment index can provide the full picture of entity. Entity might be a company, a stock, a ticker, anything that has a particular name. And the other thing is create a time series that are aggregated by time interval. It can be day, week, month, year. And we can calculate the sentiment and take values from 0 to 1, which is negative, neutral, or positive. We can do it in a different way as well by aggregating another range. So our model, at Report Brain, we train our sentiment model on labeled corpus to analyze the emotion of each article. So using this model, we can classify an article being positive, neutral, or negative. Here you can see that we chose +1, 0, or -1, so it will be the easiest way. We can provide the probability scores to allocate to this article classification results. I will not read the probability, what probability represents. It's a more technical part. Can we, thank you. So the API version 5 facilitates news features using our structuring and unstructured data in the news by transforming, normalizing, and augmenting it for specific applications. So the customers who use ReportBrain's API can build a query to explore the data and retrieve the sentiment of articles and their metadata. Next slide, please. So what's changed from version 4 to 5? We simplified the query construction. We still, every day we are ingesting new articles into our database. So we are trying to pick the articles from all of the world every day. We finalized the API version and it's in production environment already. The sentiment scoring methodology is established, so we closed that, that part. We have added a new endpoint for a sentiment index API, and we have a better model which is faster and has a better accuracy comparing to the previous one. And I think that will be the last slide. So this is all from us, ReportBrain. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Victoria. I would like to ask, do you intend on including any types of a knowledge base or how someone can educate themselves in order to, know how they can create the proposed portfolio? I mean, you give the flexibility to anyone to choose their preferences, but is there an element of educating them in a way to know how to do so?
So I don't know if it's the question for me exactly.
I think it's
for the pilot 4.
For the pilot 4 in general.
No, potentially I step in here, Roland here from Privy. I think this is a very good point, but the question of, let's say, as it is always known as financial literacy, to have here people more trained in what does risk mean, what does, for example, now, which is very popular, ESG mean, that should be exactly always done during the journey, yeah? Meaning,
correct.
Like we should show, we could show, I think on this journey which was drafted, for example, when there it comes to regional or to thematic investments, yeah, then there is always a kind of a mouse over box existing or partially planned, where we describe, okay, what does it mean if you want to invest compliant with ESG rules, or if you want to invest in mega trends, or what does a risk score, meaning a volatility number, mean exactly. And because in the whole financial behavior studies, which is since let's say 10-15 years always ongoing, it's always recognized that most of the investors do not want to learn beforehand about what does financial investments mean, what is stocks, what is bonds, but they want to do it on the go when they are clicking through and want to achieve or want to receive some additional hints. But this is also always a little bit driven by potential B2B customers, meaning some banks do not even want to give some more advice because they don't want to be then responsible for this advice, while with some asset managers where they are responsible for the investments, they need to explain to their customers what does it mean if they take more or less risk, for example.
Yeah,
does this answer your question?
It does. It's a very delicate topic, I guess, and even just explaining what each one of these terms mean, I think it's a good start. I'm thinking how you can educate the users to make better decisions for pretty much everything. Just also the financial model and how they can maximize their returns, but also other things like ESG, as you mentioned. It's important because this is a buzzword. Many people have heard it, but I don't know if anyone actually know how and what it actually means. So yeah, thanks Roland for explaining this. Are there any questions from anyone? I don't see any hands, so I'm gonna send you now the feedback form for pilot 4. As earlier, let's spend a couple of minutes. Please give your feedback to the team. They've done an excellent work so far, and all the feedback is pretty valuable for them. So please do, and we'll come back in 2-3 minutes. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you all. I already see the responses coming. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sending this after the call, so you will be able to send it to anyone else who can provide the feedback for you. This is part of the deliverable anyway, so you know that you need to have more responses and get as much feedback as possible for your projects. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Victoria, for the presentation. I think we can go ahead and see what pilot 5B has to show us. So hi, Dimitris and George.
Thank you very much. Also from my side, yeah.
Thank you, Roland. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for that. It's very interesting and looking forward to actually use it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Because I need to step out again. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good workshop.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Dimitris. Hi, George. The floor is yours if you want to start.
Cool. Great.
That's perfect. We can see your screen and looking forward. Thank you.
Okay, so please allow me to start. Basically, we are addressing a pilot which is in the area of smart advisors. And what we are trying to do here is to assist a market which has been highly underserved throughout the recent or the past period. Now, why did we come to such a situation? Basically, up to today, it has been very costly for financial institutions to address each and every single SME's needs. Now, with the technology advancing and AI becoming kind of state of the art, with processing of big data no longer being kind of restricted item, we thought it would be a good time to introduce a tool which is taking a rather holistic approach to the main pain points of the SME businesses. So what you can see here, it's a visualization of the pilot, what we are trying to achieve. It is in the core to have a smart virtual advisor, which takes into consideration not just a single feature, but rather more a variety of sub-engines running to analyze the business from various perspectives. So you can see on this slide, for example, the cash flow engine, the transaction categorization engine, also a KPI analysis taking place, as well as benchmarking or invoicing. So all of them, they are working in a kind of isolated way, but the real value is added when all the information is being combined into the core and results into call to actions for the SME owners. So an additional item on the previous slide may be important. It's to take into consideration that a tool, it's not being built and then it's ready. It's a continuous improvement necessary in order to adapt to a changing and fast changing environment. And therefore, what is also being attempted to achieve is to have a feedback loop, a behavioral analysis loop being incorporated, so that on a continuous basis, these engines and the core is being updated, kind of learns as it goes. On the next slide, we try to address what are the innovation points. So what is really the value which we are trying to add? So we're looking in two main pillars here. It's from one side, the business innovations, and from the other, the technical innovations. From a business innovation point of view, it's really revolutionizing the BFM tools. Definitely, this is not the first attempt somebody has been taking in terms of building a so-called business financial management tool. But what it really is, the first attempt, is to look at it in a more holistic approach and not having single engines being addressing single pain points. In order to do so, it's obviously common practice to address past data, but the looking forward, projecting, making sense of the past, and taking a variety of parameters, real-time parameters into consideration is tremendously important to have a most accurate forward-looking perspective. So that is one part of the innovation. And the other part is that this is not a one-size-fits-all, obviously. Rather more, it takes into consideration the specifics of the underlying SME, the nature of the business, the maturity level of the business, and based on that comes up with these call to actions, with this kind of recommendation and insights, where significant workload is shifted from the day-to-day operation, the admin staff, towards allowing the SME staff to focus on developing their core business. On the right-hand side, we have the technical innovations, and here obviously it's making use, utilizing the technology progress which has been being made, in particular when it comes towards the artificial intelligence and machine learning models, as well as pushing the banks in its digital transformation journey, and that is basically establishing the first test bed, the first cloud environment where the solution would run from. On the next slide, we have obviously looked into what is happening within the market, what does make sense, what does not make sense. And here you can see on the left-hand side the market analysis, putting into perspective the market share as well as the SME focus of the various financial institutions were on the island. As you can clearly see, the Bank of Cyprus is the market leader. It has the highest market share and the highest SME focus. However, and that's why we also feel very much excited about this pilot project. We have a strong competitor which is moving in with their SME focus. So in terms of staying ahead of the game, it is very important that we will be able to succeed in establishing a tool like the one we anticipate. On the right-hand side, you can see the solution offerings within the space. As mentioned previously, this is not the first attempt with regards to business financial management tool. There are plenty of them. I have listed them. Some of them, they have a kind of focus on a particular pain point, whether this is dealing with the invoices, whether this is dealing with budgets, whether this is dealing with cash flow prediction. Others of them, they have a kind of understood that it needs to be seen in context. So they're going deeper into trying to combine the various aspects. And here you can see the kind of leader is Strands in this perspective, which is actively pushing on that front as well. However, I think the number of engines we trying to take into considerations have not been taken into consideration by this competitor. They are working on invoicing, they're working on, for example, budgets, but when it comes to creating like recommendation insights by combining this data, they are still struggling with that one, so it hasn't been resolved. Going to the next slide is the engagement. So how are we trying to develop this tool? It's straightforward, basically involving stakeholders throughout the entire development cycle. And that is basically making sure or safeguarding that we are not having a tool which kind of doesn't address the particularities of each SME. To do so, we run regular sessions with internal stakeholders where we update them on the progress, what has been made, the vision we have, the developments which have been made, and collecting their feedback in their guidance on which direction they believe we should continue from that point onwards. That's it from my side. Dimitris, if you would like to continue.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Silvio. Now, moving on a bit deeper on the pilot and how it works, we continue with the high-level diagram of the pilot. Just wanted to make a few points here. First, regarding our data, currently we are utilizing Bank of Cyprus customer account and transaction data, and we soon would like to integrate open banking account and transactional data, as well as some microeconomical data that would provide more insights of the external environment that the SMEs are operating. Now, another challenge would be integrating invoices and operational data of the SMEs. That proves to have many challenges regarding that you have to connect with various ERPs, and there are data regulation issues, but we are positive that the bank is doing another project having to do specific with invoices, so we might get some readily made input from there. Now, regarding having to do with the source of every data we are utilizing, we are using external, historical, and real-time data collectors. And as you can see in the image, all the red blocks are part of the testbed, which has been one of the first ones to be implemented in the project along Pilot 2. And we have everything running smoothly in the shared testbed. Now, what remains to be done, and we still have some technical and process challenges internally in the bank, we have to replicate and migrate all process to the bank's own cloud testbed. That we estimate it's going to be available from Q2 2022. Of course, everything can be translated here in building blocks of the infinite array. Here you can see that we have additional partners contributing with technologies like our trusted partner LinuxScale, where we use the Infinistore database, as well as LinuxScale Kafka for data connections and streaming. Now, moving on to the components we have developed. First, we started with the foundation of our pilot, let's say, where we have our transaction categorization component. Then we moved on to the cash flow prediction model, where we are utilizing the given categories produced by the previous component. And then we have the last component we already tested would be the benchmarking component. Of course, as I mentioned before, we have utilized the Infinistore and Linux Kafka, and we have additional help to build the data pipelines, and we have the help of HP or GFT to set the test bed up and replicate all progress. Now, we would not like to go into much detail about our components and how they function, since we did that in the previous workshop, just to make some key remarks about every component. Now, regarding the categorization component, as mentioned before, it's a prerequisite for the development and the functionality of the rest of the analytical components. And here we have built a two-layer, let's say, categorization engine, where we have a given category and the respective subcategories to link to the category, to the main category. Of course, we're allowing the user, in case we have ambiguous transactions or we didn't get, we made them, let's say, a mistake while categorizing, to change the transaction, which will be saved in our hybrid model, and then be getting that right the next time. Our model, as mentioned, is a hybrid model, which means we have a lot, we did some hand labeling and created a rule-based categorization engine, and then we combine it with a tree-based machine learning algorithm. Now, the results of those categories are then fed to our DPAR probabilistic forecast model, which is based on RNNs, and the model aims to forecast future inflows and outflows of SMEs. From what we have already tested, we can get pretty accurate predictions with a decreased transaction volume, where we have a threshold of 10 transactions in order to be ingested into the model and produce the forecast. Finally, we prepared the benchmarking engine, which aims to provide to SMEs an overview of their spending and the behavior of other likewise business. Now, what we consider a likewise business would be based on two criteria at this point. So we're clustering the SMEs based on the number of employees to have an idea if it's like a very small SME, a small or a medium SME. And then the NASC Rev2 code, which is a European standard to have an idea of the operating sector that the SME is operating. Now, once we have data streams, we want to integrate the financial status of SMEs, meaning the balance they have, so we can have a better, a more accurate clustering of likewise businesses. Now, another focus we had during the last months would be uploading some of the components to the marketplace, which I hope you are all part of. So you know, it can be used by other banks or SMEs independently. So the component we uploaded demonstrates how to predict in a probabilistic way the future inflows and outflows of SMEs. And even if it was built based on our categories and the results of the categorization engine, it can be easily fine-tuned and applied in general for in other companies. Based on that, we have also prepared the 25-minute how to develop video, where we have many ideas of data representation, illustration, and how the model is trained and works. Now, I would like to conclude with some valuable lessons having to do with the development and the engagement we have with our stakeholders. Now, first of all, what helped a lot in the data compliance sector and the ethics, the impact of the ethics would be that the data tokenization at the bank's premises, it doesn't allow us to have any clear indication of what the actual user will be. But however, we cannot just draw data stream data from the bank. So they have first to be pre-processed at the bank and then be sent to the Infinistore. And that is causing a delay to the introduction of near real-time data streaming functionalities, as it has to be done internally in the bank and then be streamed to our Infinity store. Now, another challenge could be how to outsource banks in the cloud, in the bank's own cloud in AWS, because okay, we have done all the necessary compliance needed to send everything to the shared testbed, but setting up a new cloud infrastructure seems to be a bigger problem than expected for the bank. Now, in the beginning, we started doing one-to-one workshops with SMEs, which proved to be a kind of difficult task, because one SME, based on their core business, which would be translated to the frequency of transactions or the nature of transactions, would point us to one way, where another SME would point us to another way. To resolve that, we're going to have to make some new workshops where we have to reach out to many hundreds or thousands to SMEs, where we can have more statistical significant results on which direction to go and what would be expected by us. Finally, in order to attract SME customers, the platform's added value should be really clearly communicated and showcased to the SMEs, and have clear concrete examples on how the various offerings we have can support the business owner with everyday cash flow, financial cash flow tasks and management, so that then he shouldn't care about the financial management and just care about his or her core business model. And that could be all. We are here for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you both for the presentation. It's very interesting. Is there any like particular competitor that you would think of, like someone who has been in the market for many years and that you are trying to improve in a way?
Sylvia, we want to take the lead?
Yes, so basically it's the one which we have pointed out, which has kind of a more holistic approach, but at the same time, the quality of it, I wouldn't say it reaches the level of what we want to do, which is Strands.
Mm.
It's a big company. It's been put lots and lots of money into such tools up to now, but I think still struggling within the market.
Yeah, I see. It's this, I'm thinking these big, huge, actually, multinationals that are in this market for a while now, but it feels like their tools are a bit outdated. So there's definitely room for improvement there. That's good. Thank you, guys. Is there any other question? Someone that would like to ask something on this? If not, I'm gonna share with you now the presentation, sorry, the feedback form, and please all spend 2 or 3 minutes to just give feedback to the guys. You're also doing great work so far. Thank you for doing that. I think there's big potential. I've shared the link with you. I think, yeah, it goes to everyone. So let's come back in 2 minutes or 3, and we can take it from there. Thank you. Okay, I haven't received many responses so far. I just hope it's gonna be a bit delayed because we are 10 people or more here, so we should have at least 10. But let's see. As I mentioned, we will be sharing this with you after the call, so you can also share it with your stakeholders as well. Once again, thank you both for presenting pilot 5B, and we will move to the next one, the last pilot for today. It's pilot 6. So we have Eleni here and Nikos. So hi, who is gonna present? Hi guys.
Hi, actually, this is Georgia. I'm
Hi,
going
Georgia.
to present.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
let me know, please, when you can see my screen.
Yes, yes, you're ready. Good to go.
Okay, so in this pilot, we're focusing on creating personalized intelligent investment recommendations for retail customers. The main aim here is to study the existing portfolio, and by leveraging large customer data sets and large volumes to create a mechanism that will actually automatically provide investment recommendations for the retail customers. I will elaborate a bit more in the next slide, but let's first of all mention.
Can you please just go full screen presentation mode?
I hope that it doesn't collapse, but okay.
Yes, it works perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, okay. We'll see if it stays this way. So now, in this development, of course, National Bank of Greece is not alone. We also have the support of Crowd Policy, University of Glasgow, LXS, UBTech, and Report Brain. If we go a bit, just to understand the structure, so we've got various data sources. So after moving on with the data harmonization, so meaning cleansing the data, anonymizing, of course, the data, we move on to the data analytics part, where we are taking into account the customer risk profile, the assets, the investment transactions, the history, the historical data, social data, and so on. Taking into account also from the various partners that we have and creating AI platforms, on top of which there is also the business logic from National Bank of Greece. The end of this solution leads, of course, to a visualization screen, which will be available to the financial advisors. The aim here is to address in 3 different dimensions the issue and actually have similar goals. So first of all, we've got the retail customer that has highest privileges. It's a solution available to everyone. The goal is actually to guide the retail customers to have a much better customer experience. On the other hand, in the middle, we've got the investment advisor, which by having in place a mechanism that provides instantly the recommendations to the customers, is actually taking the investment advisor to increasing productivity, and on top of this, being more, let's say, loyal and closer to the customers. Now, focusing to the bank, of course, we expect to have an increased customer experience and customer satisfaction, as well as loyalty, let's put it as a side effect of all this. Now, one may ask why this is actually business innovation, because we've seen during the years a lot of recommendation engines. In this one, in the particular one, we're also taking into account real-time information. The second point is that it's available to all retail customers, not only to the high affluent ones. Plus, that we are introducing new business KPIs in order to become more effective and more efficient. Just an asterisk here that this needs to be evaluated after a significant time period, I mean, at least 6 to 8 months, in order to put this into production, to operationalize it, and set the appropriate KPIs and the relevant thresholds. In terms of technical innovation, as I previously mentioned, we are utilizing real-time big data. It's an implementation that is actually easy to understand, easy to be adopted by the financial advisors, of course. It refers to data harmonization, which required, as you can understand, quite significant effort. And we're utilizing also open source machine learning libraries. Indeed, as you previously heard, it is competitive due to the fact that it's available to each and every customer, not only to the high affluent ones. Plus, another point, that the level of information is quite detailed compared, I mean, to the others that are in the market, actually. Here you can see some screenshots of the UI that we are building. So it's user-friendly, it's fast, and it has consolidated information per customer. So some historical data, some information regarding the risk profile, and of course, the recommendations apart from the current portfolio, but in any case, what could be the best match, the best choice for the particular customer. Now, this business innovation can work across countries and organization and drive growth. And for NBG is a way to gain knowledge regarding investments, to go deeper there. And of course, because we are referring to machine learning actually process, the aim is to become even better every day, to feed with the results, and of course, to not only gain operational excellence in terms of the financial advisors, but also get closer to the customers as much as possible through this feeding. And of course, gain knowledge from other organizations. So what is happening in the market is something that in any case for any big organization such as NBG is quite important to understand and be aligned. So this is it from my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yulia. Are you gonna show us anything on the ethics side, or do you have anything else you would like to share with us?
I think that for the time being, this is it. In terms of ethics, as I said, I think we are aligned, not something really in particular to be mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yeah, one question I like to ask this one, which is like one of the main competitors that you have in mind, and you're trying to improve how they do things right now. Is there someone who's, let's say, a market leader in this segment?
Well, in terms of banks, of course, we have four systemic banks. One of them, of course, is NBG. We consider actually all the rest as competitors. So I'm quite sure, though, that they're not implementing such technologies and such algorithms, particularly for investments.
I see.
You see, and this is not just to say something about NBG, but in principle, we're way ahead from the overall, I would put it this way, analytics environment across the Greek banks.
Mm-hmm. That's very good. So we're looking forward to get the final version of this. I'm sure it will be helpful for many people out there. Thanks for sharing this. Thanks for the presentation. Are there any other questions for Yulia and Pilot 6? I don't see anything. So let me share with you the last of the feedback forms for today. And we can come back in 2-3 minutes just for the closing of this section. So I've just sent you the form. Please spend 2 minutes to reply and help the team with your feedback. Very valuable. Thank you. Okay, that would be all. I already see some of the responses. So I would like to thank you all for joining today. We are a few minutes, like 20 minutes out of our schedule, but it was very interesting to see your current stage. This was cluster 2 workshop for March. We will be having another similar workshop, I think by July. And we're looking forward to getting feedback from any other stakeholder out there. You can share. We will be sharing this video with you, so you can share with your network. Thank you once again for the presentations. Great work from everyone, and we will be in touch very soon. Have a good day ahead.
Thanks, Theo.
Bye all.
Bye, Theo.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.